Honorary flag bearer
for parliamentary seat. Thank you very much, Timothy. Good evening, fellow panelists. Good evening, viewers. I'm happy to be here once again behind the headlines. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much, sir, for honoring our invite. We also invited the Honorable Minister Sam Mayanja, the Minister of State in charge of lands, but he didn't avail himself. So tonight we'll have the Honorable Minister.
He might be resolving some land disputes somewhere.
He promised us, he told us he would come from Dokolo straight here. Yes. But we'll not explain the other details of that. This country has 4 tenure systems. But when we look at the countries around us in the region, when you look at Kenya or Rwanda, they have 2 tenure systems. Rwanda seems to have settled, especially after 1999, and putting in place land policies that work for them. We have had a Land Act that has been promulgated in 2010, but also we have a land policy that was put in place in 2013. What does that mean for either or? We also have a land fund that is meant to resolve issues that are within dispute there. Those 3 areas is what we'll be talking about, but there is no part of this country that has not had a land dispute or wrangle between a community, a family, or contention on Milo or customary land there. You can be part of the show. Go to our YouTube channel, drop your comment there. Let us know what you think. We're streaming live on X, UBC. Let us know what you think. Also, the number for text or WhatsApp is 0709 60 25 92 for your text and WhatsApp. Let's get into this conversation. Honorable Minister, it's only fitting that I come to you first before I come to Luke and Chairman Chelimo to give me a picture of what is happening there. When we look at, there's a Land Act, there's a land policy, the Constitution really took time, as reading this week in the New Vision, talking about how land was a contentious issue between 94 and 95 in the making of the Constitution. What is the state of our land right now? What, as government, is this a concern for you? If you see Wakiso has issues, Mitiana, Mubende, Apa, Amur, you come down, you're going all the way to Kasese, Ryantonde. How does this make you feel as government?
Thank you very much, and I want to thank UBC for inviting us to discuss this topical issue of land. And the land question is very central to issues of Uganda. And it's not about to go. Discussing the issue of land, I want to trace it back to the colonial times. In the pre-colonial Uganda, we had our own systems of managing land. But we recall from our history classes, primary school, even secondary school, when the colonialists came, one of the areas they looked at to use to conquer and establish dominion over us was the issue of land, especially here in the central part of Uganda. We recall the 1900 or 1900 agreement, Uganda agreement, where the king was the custodian of all the land here in Uganda. But these colonialists came, now I want to say forced now the Ugandans to go into an agreement where now they actually take over the land, and they are now parceling out land to individuals, including the king himself, which land was being measured in square miles, and that's where the word mile land comes from, because they were parceling out square miles to individuals, and mainly those who were in leadership, the chiefs, and they had now to compromise them with that in order for them to conquer the area. So including the king was also given now square miles, the different chiefs, and now they created a new system where now you had landlords who were given certificates of title by the colonialists, but also had people who were occupying the land, the tenants, and that's how we created that dual ownership system of Nanyini Taka in Uganda, as we call it, or the owner of the land, or the landlord, and then Wechibanja, the tenant. That's where it comes from. And that was 1900. And it went on, we recall that around the time when the veterans of First World War returned in 1917, 1920, thereabout, the returnees came with a lot of money and started buying off some of the landlords. And it caused confusion, especially here in central Uganda. And that's why the government then had to come up with the law, the Busuru and the Vujo law of 1928, because there were upheavals rotating around land management and how that tenure system was affecting the communities here, 1928. Of course, similar agreements were signed for Ankole, for Toro, and so forth. Now, fast forward, the colonial rule distorted the management of land in Uganda, in those areas. And later on, we go into independence, and of course we know at independence, we get a new system of self-rule. 1966-67, we turn to a republic. There are some laws which were made by the governments then, like 1969, the Public Land Act and so forth. Then come Idi Amin, President Idi Amin, he comes up with a decree 1975 of making all the land public land in Uganda, which was now reversed through the 1995 Constitution. That debate, so a land question had already been created through that process. Now when it came to the CA, I know even the fifth parliament of Obote II, around 1984, had contentious debates about land, but then there was a coup in 85. But now when the CA sat, the land issue was very cardinal in the discussions. And that's how the CA in its wisdom comes up with those 4 distinct tenure systems: the Mairo, the customary, the lease, and freehold. But you recall when they promulgated the Constitution, still there were lingering questions about land. And when you read the Constitution, there was a provision that within 2-3 years, the Parliament must sit and come up with a Land Act that defines now much more thoroughly different provisions of how land would be managed. And that's how 1998, Parliament comes up with the Land Act, which has been amended severally over the years. So, like you said, where we have freehold and leasehold, we don't see a lot of challenges per se. I think where the challenges are in the customary land, which obtains the bigger part of the country. Look at the north, parts of the east, even parts of the west, and then the Mairo land, especially here in the central. And that's where we see these evictions and land conflicts. Why? Because, like I have said, it originated from the colonial distortion, where you find the people settled, but because the colonialists wanted to conquer this area, they used the issue of land and created dual ownership. You have a landlord who has been given a certificate of title, but you have people who are settled. And when you look at the Land Act, we have put several amendments, especially to define that relationship between a landlord and a tenant. When you see these evictions, they relate to that relationship. Because what we've put in the law is that both the landlord and the Chibanja holder or the tenant, they have perpetual interests on the land. And we have defined the relationship between a landlord. For instance, we are saying for a landlord to evict lawfully the tenant, it's not very easy to just evict, because the tenant is supposed to pay busuru, which is a nominal fee, which is not commercial, but that's as a sign of showing that there is a relationship between me and you. The president usually uses an example of a salute. He says, when you are a senior and I'm a junior officer will salute you, it has no commercial value, but it recognizes that there is a relationship between me and you. So similarly, the law put a provision that the tenant should pay some nominal fee, which is determined by government. I think initially, when the law came up, the district administration was supposed to come up with the fee, but after a period, it reverts to the Minister of Lands who prescribes how much you should pay. It is just nominal. And that's part of the contention. Many of the landlords have been avoiding the tenants when they come to pay. We have since amended the law and said the tenant can pay at a sub-county level. And then you get a receipt and you are deemed to have paid the landlord. So some of the conflicts rotate around there. So the issue is the landlord says, this is my land, I have a certificate, but it is occupied, it has tenants. So what some people now are doing, what is bringing the conflicts, in some situations, somebody goes to the bank and gets a loan because he has a title, and then he refuses to pay. He refuses to pay, the loan goes bad. Now when the loan goes bad, now the man even says, do I have a title, I can sell the land, or let the bank sell the land. And maybe, and there has been abuse of military forces here in Uganda. Maybe if I'm a minister and I can get the army or police, I now use security apparatus to come. I first of all buy the land from the bank and then want to evict the other people unlawfully. So the evictions which you see, especially in Uganda, they are largely unlawful. And the challenge that sometimes police, the RDCs, and the state actors, at times they are not well versed with the law. And that's why the president has been very emphatic, saying even when you get a court order, please work with the police, work with the RDC, don't just come and evict people. There are few situations allowed under the law where you can actually evict. When you are a landlord, where you can evict, I think, is when the tenant has failed to pay busuru for some period, then you can secure a court order. It's a complicated process, but the law protects the tenant as well as safeguards the interests of the landlord. For instance, the law prescribes that if the landlord wants to relinquish his interest, then he should first contact the tenant and vice versa.
Yes.
You should not just get a third party, you should first sort it amongst yourselves. So the law is quite robust, quite strong. It protects the interests of the landlord as well as the tenant, but there is abuse. So the conflicts and the evictions that you see, especially in the central, just rotates around that issue of the relationship. Like when we are compensating, say, you know, the law provides for compulsory acquisition of private property, including land. But that's Article 26 of the Constitution, but it provides for adequate compensation. Now, when the state is compensating, say, the landowners, both the tenant and the landlord are compensated. When I was the Minister of Lands, I recall we were doing it in a ratio of 60% the tenant and 40% to the landlord. So the conflicts rotate around that issue. But it's an issue which is very dear to us in the government, and we continue to do consultations, the population. We continue to amend and make better the law so that we can have amicable settlement of Ugandans as they use their land. But also, you talked of the land fund. The intention of the land fund, which is a creature of the Constitution, is that when you look at the mind of the CA delegates, was that eventually, especially for Milo land, which obtains here in the center, parts of Bunyoro, is that we need to pay off, especially the landlords, compensate them so that they get off the land, and the land just remains owned by one person. When I was the Minister of Lands, we had possibly the tenant, yes. We buy off the landlords, their rights be bought, their interests, and then the tenant can fully and comfortably own the land. Because you see, when you read the history of this Milo, it is even recorded in some of the books that in Uganda, subject to confirmation from those who live here, that the tenants, while burying their dead, would even put shallow graves, that they could not bury their dead deep. They could not even put perennial crops because of that insecurity whether they own the land or not. So it remains a question. So the land fund is meant, among other functions, to buy off the interests of especially the landlords, so that you free this land and be owned by the tenant. We had computed about 10 years ago that we required around 1.7 trillion shillings to buy off, but maybe now the figure has since gone up. Government has not got adequate resources to capitalize the land fund so that we address that issue. Maybe partly that's why you see.
And I'll come back to that land fund, but what I wanted to mention that you spoke of 1975 when President Amin was here.
Yes.
And there are attributes to it that are given, like, you know, it settled the land question. When you look at that then, and look at the disarray we are in right now, wouldn't we have it better nationalizing the land?
Well, it has the pros and cons. Yes, maybe we could have left it that way, but again, the NRM government is a listening government. When it came to the CA, there were loud voices, especially, you see, the way to look at it is that who are the people who became landlords in 1900? It was the aristocratic class, the elites, the people who were chiefs, who were in the governance, and other people who educated their children. So even when you trace it, you will find those who were in the CA are actually the landlords, those who inherited that land through that system. So the voices were very loud. Because of course Amin was able to suppress Ugandans because you could not contest his decision, but in the CA it was a free debate, and the voices were loud that you could not just say, let's keep with the decree of President Idi Amin. So we had to open up and listen to the voices, and that's why these different land tenure systems were agreed upon to see that each part of the country is comfortable with what obtains there. But it's a question which we have to continue addressing as things emerge.
And I'll come back to you, Honorable Minister. Let me come to Chairman Chelimo. Chairman, what is your experience? You're closer to our Kenyan counterparts there. When I look at, for them they address it with two tenure systems, freehold, leasehold. They still have their challenges there. They also had a truth commission that was recommended to handle such and revoke such properties. But what is the experience in the Sebei region? What can you share with us that is happening with land, conflict, and wrangles there?
Yeah, thank you, Timothy, for the information of the viewers. I was the district chairperson for the whole of Kapchorwa all the way to Bukwa between 2002 and 2011. And there are now 3 districts. But the land questions remain, the conflicts remain. But for us, much as the Honorable Minister has just given us what was and what is prevailing in the central Uganda, for us at the margin, we have unique problems. But the conflicts are very heavy for a number of reasons. Some of the reasons are what he has mentioned. But I wanted to say, you know, we on Mount Elgon, even before the Europeans came, this is a region which has been generally heavily populated, very many people. So land holdings, even under customary, have been fairly small. And over the last, let me say from independence up to today, for a number of reasons, land holdings have become so small. When you look at Kapchorwa side might be slightly better than perhaps the Bugisu side. Their population is much heavier. And you'll find, when you talk of land holdings, in an acre you may find like 5 people. In an acre you may find even 10 families. And in a situation like that one, definitely conflicts are, because people are struggling over small yards or a few meters. And the people kill each other, people cut crops, people cut straying goats. You know, you are tying your goat on your small plot and it strays into another. So conflicts are definitely very intense. But for us also, we have other problems. Like when you look at Kapchorwa, the lower side is plain, but the upper side is mountain. Now, the historical issue of these cattle raids from our neighbors, the Karamojong and the Pokot, they displaced people. And people were forced to go into the mountain to join their heavily populated brothers. And the lower areas now were abandoned. And once they were abandoned, recently when insecurity subsided, when there was a measure of control over the raiding in Karamoja, now people have been trying to go back to the open lands in the plains. But sometimes you'll find some people go there earlier than others, and they sell off the land or even survey the land because the people are up in the mountain. And so it brings new conflicts. And there is a problem which has affected us also, especially Kapchorwa people. The lower side is another district. The lower side is administered by Bulambuli, and the land is managed in Bulambuli. But the owners of the land who were displaced by the Karamojong are in Kapchorwa. And these people find it very difficult. If you try to go back to your land, you will find the land perhaps has been surveyed and sold by the neighboring local government. And this brings more conflicts. So then there is the other issue of in the mountain. We have a Mount Elgon National Park, which was created in 1993. Mount Elgon National Park. It was created in Mount Elgon Forest. That forest, of course, is people live near that forest. But before 1983, there used to be people who used to live inside in the forest. If you have heard of people who are popularly called Dorobos, forest people. That name comes actually from across Kenya. It is good you have referred me to our neighbors. Now, the people who used to live in the forest, even when the forest had been gazetted a forest, a government forest, people were still there. Now, when these people continued to live in the forest, the government then, actually it was during Obote II, they decided to give these people some land out of part of the forest in 1983. And these people are now, you call them the Bennets. Actually, sometimes these people have made a lot of noise. You'll hear them in the newspapers. They call them the Bennets. These people were given land by the government, Obote II government in 1983. They were given land, but the land was not degazetted until, I think, 2002. When the land was, they degazetted 15,000 acres for them. But the government in 1983 had given out 8,500 acres. But then in 2002, they only degazetted 15,000 acres. But okay, I'm mixing. Actually, it was hectares. They degazetted the 6,000 hectares in 2002, but they had given out, Obote government had given out 8,500 hectares. So now people, right now as we speak, there is land which is 2,500 hectares, land which is shared between the people and the national and the OA. OA says technically it is theirs, But the people have been living on that land, since 1983. And every day there is conflict. Huh? You find sometimes askaris, they go cut people's crops. Sometimes people also get annoyed and sometimes they cut.
Because of conflicts, there's a place called Rwanda, Kisangani.
Yes.
His place.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you have heard about it. So we have those conflicts, and really, government, these people have been living on their land given to them for the last 42, 43 years. But the land is still 2,500 hectares. It is still in the national park. But the people have been living on it for 40-something years. So really, government needs to do something as soon as possible, at least to normalize these people's stay. Because I think even the Constitution was saying, if you have stayed in some, on a certain piece of land for 12 years.
That's 83.
Since 83 up to today. Yeah, 42 years.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Let me come to...
So we have those conflicts up there.
Agnes, when you hear the history of our country, where we came from, how our land has transformed, and hear Chairman Chelimo talking about, the history of then Incaptura, what is our land problem? Where does this, we've got the history, but where is the current stemming of these wrangles, of these evictions? He has also talked about deaths. Where is our current problem?
Thank you so much, Timothy. It is quite disturbing listening to Chairman, but also Honorable Chris. More often than not, when you engage in the discussions about land in Uganda, we are easily dragged into the history. And actually, you're reminded of a statement that is always used, the historical injustices. And the question is, for how long will it take for us, and what will it take for us to fix these issues, if they are still issues of the day-to-day? I believe the people who lived in 1900 committed their wrongs, did whatever they did, but I don't think that they lived in an environment where we are, and they are exposed as we are to technology, to solutions, and so many other things. Secondly, the people who shared that land bonanza in 1900, many of them do still not live today. That's what I believe. But today we are living in a class of new new legends when we are talking about land now. We are talking about the political elites. We are talking about, the powerful, who are not the Stanislas Mugwanyas of that time. And these are the ones that are now owning chunks of land. So the solutions that we have in thinking that we are dealing with the problem of the Stanislas Mugwanyas and all those that shared the land in 1900 may not necessarily work today. And for me, there are quite a number of things, but if you're to be honest, and you're asked the most valuable form of investment where somebody can put money today in Uganda, if it is not in politics, it is land. If it isn't, tell me a business. Let us be honest.
But how does the appreciation of politics come?
No, be honest. Everybody will tell you, get your money, at least put it in land, hide it in land. It is the only business that appreciates. The rest of the businesses depreciate. They spoil money. So if we remain with land as the only commodity where many people can hide their money and in any form, I was going to use the wrong word, and from any form, then you would see that all of us are running to this resource that is not expanding. Secondly, if so many people in Uganda cannot deliver livelihood elsewhere, and their sole livelihood is on land, then they are going to end up chopping and, you know, into smaller pieces of land because they have nowhere else to go. And when I was looking at Honorable presenting at the opening of this show, what was happening in my mind is that what was Uganda thinking about when we put this ministry to be called Lands, Housing, and Urban Development. Everybody is constructing something that looks like a house everywhere. Every person is developing his or her neighborhood in any way, everywhere, anyhow. And therefore, if the majority of the people, like I have said, can only deliver livelihood by occupying a small piece of land, then we are going to end here. So we have millions that whose sole source of livelihood is on the grazing, the grazing mentality is on land. And then on the other side, we have a new class who cannot put their money anywhere, but instead hide it in land. So you end up with vast lands across the country that are not under use. And again, I ask myself, what happened to the 2010 Planning Act that declared the entire country a planning zone? And then you hear chairman here talking about how UA is conflicting with the people, then they were given land, then they were resettled, then what, then another one cuts the crops, then another one comes with a panga, you know? The gazetting and the degazetting, and, you know, planning for our urbanization, planning for our land use, and all other aspects of how we use land. What happened to them? What happened? For instance, today, as we are seated here on this panel, you can be surprised tomorrow when they say, okay, there is what is it called? A bypass of some sort that is coming through your house. And you say, hell, when? Do we all know what government is planning to do where? In the next 50 years. To determine how we are planning our land resources and how we are organizing our production systems and how we are organizing our communities. How do we make sure that people can deliver livelihood away from land? Instead of all of us fixing ourselves, what happened to the housing? That all of us have to build something somewhere. The arable lands that were being used for production, now I think one of the most lucrative businesses is real estate. We are putting up residentials everywhere, however, whoever. And all what is being advertised, or we have put roads, we have put electricity, we have put water, everywhere. So we are having the old slums, we are getting new slums of the rich. And at the end of the day, we are not going to run away from these conflicts. Because one, land is the most lucrative business in the country and no other. And then two, the majority of the people remain deriving a livelihood. And three, we are not very serious with our planning.
Thank you. Let me come to Luke here. Luke, we've had the history from both the minister, from Chairman Chelimo, where he has told us exactly what is happening. The issues of the 85 hectares to now 6,000, to the conflict, but also a big problem of a population that is growing, moved to the mountains, now coming down, now a district that has been formed. There's Bulambuli, there's Kapchora here. When you look at all these problems, do you trust government to come in to resolve it?
Thank you for that question, Timothy. To me, land crisis in Uganda is not because we don't have the law. It's not in the absence of the law, but rather it's a moral issue. It is about the spirit as opposed to both the letter and the spirit. So we have used the letter in a wrong way, but we are now...
Or are we using the letter to solve the spirit?
No, we are using it is the intention within which I'm calling the spirit that is being held by those with the powers that be, so that they push their intention with some immoral motive within them, and that has affected so much. In fact, one would say very quickly that at the moment, certainly you will not trust the government over this. It has led to a lot to land grabbing within the country all over, especially even from the east. Like Chairman Chelimo put it very rightly, in 1948, in that lower end of Bulambuli, the cattle rustling started.
Look, you spoke about the moral.
Yes.
Before we get to the cattle rustling.
Yes.
What is this moral problem that you're talking about?
You see, you know the right thing to do, and you don't do it. You do the other way around, and also you utilize the law instead of helping or protecting the bona fide owners. You use it to grab, and then maybe that's why you have many cases in court, not because the grabbers don't know the law, but they are using the law with the intention to grab. So they will cause some bit of delays, a lot of money changing hands because of lack of morality within them. So to me, I call it a moral issue as opposed to the law, because we have the law and the law is very sufficient, but we ourselves, we are not patriotic as Ugandans. We don't wish development as stated by government, for instance. Now, I just wanted to come in here. I don't know whether I'm answering that, but my issue is I'm looking at land crisis in Uganda, just stepping back a little bit, like last 15 years. There has been a lot of land grabbing. That one has been much of what has contributed to the land crisis in Uganda. And in this, more especially in all parts, of course, we have heard about this APA issue, even in that area, being incentivized by the discoveries of minerals and oil and gas. And that has made those who have the money and who have the information. But there's that interconnection between the different ministries with the information, that the owners, the bona fide owners who are ignorant and innocent, are left out. And you find somebody has information from the Ministry of Energy, somebody has the information from the Ministry of Lands, somebody has information from Attorney General's office, and they know that there is a specific mineral in a specific area. They will quickly rush, buy the land very cheaply, hoodwink the owners, and then, like in Kapchorwa, when they discovered lime, you know, those rocks were quite useless to people. So some known people, even locals by the way, went and bought big chunks of land, somebody owning 200 acres of lime, and later sell to Tororo Cement or one of the factories in Tororo, and he buys land 1 acre at 1 million and sells it at 24 million. 200 acres, you find the person who had sold is still poor, and this person has no moral values completely. He doesn't care whether you are going to remain poor. Is not an issue to him. Now, from 1948, the Karamojongs began, and the Pokots began raiding Sebei. We suffered that period. And for that reason, like Chairman said, many people migrated. That's why we have Sabinis in Teso, some of them are in Kiriandongo, some of them are in Busoga, and some even ran to Kenya. Now, those, after sanity was restored by NRM government, especially the disarmament in Karamoja, people wanted to go back. But by 2003, some of these other cartels had already gotten the land and titled it and began selling to the unsuspecting investors. And So by the time the owners realized the land was no more. That's the case from around 2003, 2007. Now, in 2009, some elders went and met the president, and they shared with him their plight. So what the president did, what was around it was on 29th of June 2009. That's when he met them, some of the elders, including Chairman Chelimo. And the president issued a directive directing the Minister of Lands. I'm glad the doctor is around, but Dr. Bariomusi. Directed the then Minister of Lands, Honorable Amaro Tubo, at that time. And it was very clear. He said, you know, if this issue of land is not resolved, it may lead to intertribal war between the two communities. And the president was spot on. And he said, I'm directing you to do the following. Number one, cause boundary demarcation. In accordance to the colonial boundary demarcation, cause the demarcation between Sironko and Kapchorwa. That was 2009, 1st September. To date, nothing has been done by Minister of Land. Now, these delays escalate conflict. And one wonders why this was not handled. Then the second directive was very clear. He said, the president said, first suspend surveys, because in that lower belt land, also referred to as soy, is 75 square miles, as per the report generated by Bulambuli Land Verification Committee, chaired by the then Deputy IGP, who was appointed by the Minister of Internal Affairs, who was also doubling as the studied Deputy Prime Minister. May he so rest in peace, Haji Kivejinja. And the team came up with information, very clear. They did the investigation, came up with the very clear information. They knew with the bank accounts where the transactions took place, the names of those people who unscrupulously bought, and even those ones who sold the land, the bank details, even how much was transferred. I happened to meet Mzee Odwe, and we had a detailed discussion. I was so humbled to realize that there was very clear information, and nothing took place. Now, in the presidential directive, he had said 4 things. Number 1, suspend surveys in the land there. Nothing was done. Number 2, caveat the land, which was in question. Nothing was done. Even caveating the land, if that had been done, there wouldn't be multiple sales and resales of the land and then whatever, because even those who owned it then have sold to different people, and further subdivision of the same land. And then the president also said, investigate. So investigation was done. And then the president also, the fourth part of that directive was that he canceled the titles, and no title was cancelled today. It's unfortunate Honorable Mayanja was not here today. He isn't here today, but we would have shared more, because nothing was done. No caveat. I mean, I would have wondered. My surprise is, since then, that's 15 years ago, nothing has been done on that. So even caveating alone, even cancelling titles, not even a single title. In fact, there was one investor mentioned by the president in his directive, very clear, Amore investment. But nothing was done.
Okay, thank you. Allow me bring in Honorable Sheila. Before I get to your expertise, having been in Yala, let me ask a simple question. Both of them have expressed issues that are happening, especially in Kapchorwa, but these cut across in every customary property or Milo land that is there. With 2026 coming around the corner, this would be a low-hanging, failing to put a caveat, failing to investigate, failing to cancel, 15 years. Why is government inactive in doing the low-hanging fruit, where the minister can just put the caveat, where the minister can just say, cancel these titles? Why are we failing to act? Yet we can see the repercussions of killing, families, dispute.
I think I was just smiling at myself. You're putting me in a, in the seat of a minister. The minister should come and answer such a question. because to me, land is a very crucial factor of production. And that's how I look at it. And as a country, when we sign up to certain things, like we sign up to be part of the East African community where we have to produce, we sign up to be part of WTO, because there are also other people that are coming into the equation. It is not only Ugandans who will be struggling for land. You will see Chinese coming in, and legally they will acquire land. Indians will acquire land. So it is a bigger question. I think when you were starting, you said, who actually owns the land?
Yes.
It will be, at the end of the day, it will be the people who will have the money to be able to acquire. Because if somebody has the money, they will purchase the land.
Then when Article 237 says all land belongs to the people of Uganda.
Yes.
The people of Uganda.
So
but if the people of Uganda opt to sell off the land, then somebody who has the money will buy the land. And we've seen these things happening. And I think they will continue to happen because we have an increasing population.
True.
Not only for Uganda, but globally. We are going to produce food. I remember when we were in the East African community, we debated a lot. Uganda is one of the food baskets that can feed the whole of Africa. And we are slowly but surely moving towards the commercial agriculture. If you move around, people are moving away from parceling small land and what. So as people are acquiring the land, we will find more Ugandans getting displaced, which is unfortunate because many of us are used to holding on to our land. I feel bad. Tomorrow, some of us will be gone. But do you really believe that our children will keep the land, or it will exchange hands? Because that's what happened. The people who got the Mayo land historically do not have the Mayo land anymore. They are landless, actually. And people who did not have the land, but got the education, got the money, then they got now the land. So I'm looking at the situation in Kapchorwa. Of course, there are so many directives. I had Luke talking about the presidential directives. There are so many directives that are given, and you'll find that at times they will create more problems than sorting out. Because if you're telling me, cancel a title that I have acquired, and I say I acquired it legally, I bought the land. So sometimes such cases have brought in a lot. People with the money, we know that they will even take it to court. And your land, you know that you have the land, but the court can delay the whole process. I've been in court over a piece of land that I legally own. But I think it has taken maybe over 16, 18 years.
Wow.
And it keeps evolving. You win today, tomorrow somebody says, oh, I'm appealing, and then they put another appeal. Then they say, oh, they can't hear their appeal. So land issues are a place where the law, the people playing the law are actually benefiting. And it becomes very tricky when I have my title and somebody else says, but you actually have a title, but you don't have the land. I have another case like that, where the title, you have it, but they tell you, actually, the land is there, not there on the ground. How can it disappear on the ground when I have the title? So there are so many things happening in this country, which I believe that the policymakers need to really up the game and sort it out. But at the same time, sometimes when they are not sorted, then people take the law into their own hands. Because once I'm frustrated, next is I feel they're not helping me, then I take the law into my own hands. Yeah.
From your experience, even as we're about to take a break, from your experience, because I took time to look at Kenya, look at Rwanda, look at Tanzania, what their land tenure systems look like, but also what challenges they had. I specifically spent time with Rwanda to see what policies they put in place, phased manner, to improve their land. By 1999, there were about 12 million. 11 million parcels of land were there, but 7 million titles had been released by then. They have an organic land law that is there. When you look at all our neighbors, they have 2 tenure systems. We have 4. 2 of the communal, customary, and Milo are the ones that give us the biggest headache. From your experience and interacting with your colleagues there, how have they managed to balance that their countries are not really in flames?
I think, again, as the Honorable Minister explained, our historical, our history kind of messed us up. And we've tried to grapple with it, finding a solution. Possibly the 1975 decree could have sorted it out. But then, of course, after we got the freedom to speak, during the CA, there were many, apart from the Buganda issue, there was I think the lost counties, Bugangaizi and Buyaga, where people, the landowners were Baganda, but the Banyoro were on the land. And that was a big question. I think the land fund was supposed to go and buy off the Baganda and give the land to the Banyoro.
And it's doing that.
Yes.
Gradually.
So these issues, you can't just wish them away, because it involves people. I think I come from Toro, whereby the land was owned by the king, but the Batoro are all seated on the land. So are you going to evict them? My parents have been on that land since I think I was born. They were already there. You can't now tell, and yet the title holders are telling you now, you buy yourself at a commercial rate. Definitely you want. So our situation, I think, is very different from our neighbors. And I think if the government was to take it on and say, okay, now we are going to revert back to the 1975, I think Uganda will rise up. That's when we will all fight and overthrow the government. So that is why very few governments want to touch the land question, because it is a very hot issue.
Okay. Let me read some feedback that has come through here. Good evening, Timothy. Thank you for the program. A question to Honorable Chris Baryomunsi. How does government determine who benefits from the land fund? I am on a Chibanja land. Can government save me? Help me out to buy off my landlord? This is Stephen Kambugu in the village of Wakiso there, okay? Good evening, Timothy. Thank you for the discussion on the land issue. My concern is when one gets a loan from the bank or a SACCO, he mortgages the land, even he gets guarantors. Why is it that some fail to use or sell the land that is mortgaged? Instead, they decide to get guarantors so that they can pay back the loan, yet you borrowed against the land. Okay? Interesting question there. President Amin's decree about land was the right way. Land should be a public property, but with this government, it can't work because Dr. Chris and his colleagues are corrupt. We shall end up in the whole dab of the country is owned by someone. Okay.
I am not corrupt.
Good evening, Timothy. The program, thank you for the people you're hosting and the panel. Your topic of discussion today is perfectly selected. We asked the minister to explain to us why the land law or the act implemented is not to the letter, the relationship between the bona fide occupant, and what is the role of Uganda Human Rights Commission in relation to the land rights. From time of the structure of the Constitution. Otherwise, thank you for the show. This is Michael from Moyo District, and he says, I mean the application of the law is selective in relation to the victims that are there. Okay. Finally, thank you for the show. This is Titus from Mutundwe. Thank you, Titus, there. One more. Do we get land titles by means of law or by means of policy? The difference between the two. This is someone from Chiruhura. Thank you very much for your messages. Keep them coming. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we want to be able to discuss solutions, especially in hindsight, that the elections or the government in waiting, come 2026, needs to be answering these tough questions about land.
Big thing about the MTN Super. Wali yakapia musite wali yakapia. MTN kabo de super mustairo mpia. Then you kabo de smartphone nebi akabibiona. MTN kabo de super mustairo mpia. Then you kabo de smartphone nebi akabibiona.
Get the new Kabode Super smartphone and enjoy 16 GB free. Start with a deposit of only 45,000 Uganda shillings and pay the rest mpora in daily installments of less than 1K. You can also make weekly and monthly installments. Together, our vibes are unstoppable. Terms and conditions apply.
MTN.
MTN is regulated by Uganda Communications Commission.
Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here. In the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's what you feel in the gentle caress of tropical wind from the mountaintops. And the glow in your heart from a warm neighborly invite. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking to the taste of food that takes you on a journey. In the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth. In the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the pearl of Africa.
The government's core mandate is to maintain law and order, safeguard citizens' rights, and provide essential public services.
Remember, one of the pillars of a roadmap is innovation and entrepreneurship.
There has been this question of how are you protecting our indigenous seed?
It's going to be a tall project that answers somebody's question.
The Front Bench has brought you insightful discussions on governance, security, healthcare, justice, and commerce.
When you go through this complicated procedure, involve the lawyers, you bring the case against him, the judge will hear you out and pass judgment, and you're out of court in record time.
We remain committed to keeping you informed and engaged on key national matters.
So these are huge, these are powerful organizations which now Uganda chairs. Why don't you come together?
If we haven't migrated to the e-card because of various reasons, including that not all the people of Uganda have smartphones.
You can sit in your house, apply for a passport.
If you have a Ugandan who has a successful logistics firm in the US, it means he can come to Uganda and do a lot more.
Every Monday at 8:30 p.m. with me, Jethro Kasaiji, your interface with the government only on your public broadcaster, UBC, Inspiring Uganda.
Welcome back from that quick commercial break here on Behind the Headlines as we get to the last leg of the show. Today we focus on issues that should be at the center of Agenda 2026. As we get closer to these elections, as the nominations for local authorities are going through, and we look in hindsight to see that the presidential nominations will be coming soon, the biggest issues or the contentious issues, what should they be discussing, especially when we look at one thing that we have, all of us, for either prosperity or production, which is land. The land question has no answers. Where do we find them? And the biggest question is, who owns the land? Let me read some feedback before I get to the Honorable Minister. The land issue has been abused to the extent that even government institutions like police, who should protect people and their property, have become grabbers. In October 2023 and February 2025, the police DPC mobilized his men and the prisoners, and they displaced several businesses along Mbale Highway opposite Kapchora Hospital within the town, grabbed people's plots with permanent buildings, fenced it off, chain link. To date, the police have taken over. The RDC, Madame Mugerwa, tried to intervene, but the DPC ignored her. Landlords, tenants are now in Mbale High Court with the Attorney General and the DPC. If government is involved in land grabbing, what happens to the citizens? Okay. This is Cherich Peter. Why does Chairman Chelimo not stick to the issues that have been seriously affecting most of the population in Sebei? Chairman, I hope you respond to that one. In Kumi here, the land belongs to me, not anybody. Let them fight in Buganda, but not in Teso. Emma, in Nambole. Emma, don't pray for what can reach you. Good evening. I'm watching you from Queen. Okay, thank you, Mike, from watching from Queen. And lastly, discussing land matters in Uganda is uncalled for, just because the likes of people that are thieves in the land business are taking advantage of the poor. Courts have no control, but we have been left for God to determine the fate. The honorables there need to tell us if the land laws in this country were made for us or someone else. Wasike Ali from Namisindwa. Thank you very much. Keep the messages coming. We'll read them as we get to the top of the hour. Honorable Minister, yes. Investors, foreigners, wishful thinking, the law, the land. Is government willing to do anything?
Yes, it is.
There are presidential directives. Luke has talked about them in Kapchora. Nothing has happened. Court, Honorable Sheila has talked about it, 16 years. God forbid, but if it goes on for another 10 years, if she's not with us, who handles that? Court orders, not handled. Is government, the executive, the legislature, the judiciary, the police, what's happening?
Okay. One, the population of Uganda continues to grow rapidly. Actually, Uganda has one of the fastest growing populations. But the size of Uganda is not expanding. Uganda remains static. Actually, when you go deeper, Uganda could be shrinking. Because like in the west, Rivers Muriki changed the course and ate into Uganda. There is some dispute there. When you go the southern border, the allegations that the boundary was put 1 degree north and Tanzania has part of our land. I hope I don't raise the diplomatic issues. When you go to Karamoja area, I think Kenya has entered about 8 kilometers into Uganda. There are those border disputes. But the point I am making that the island, Mijingo. So the point I am making that Uganda is not expanding. It remains the same or even shrinking, given those disputes on the borders, even the northern part of South Sudan, the Moyo area, but the population is increasing. So land conflicts generally come in because land is a very valuable resource, and we have to see how to utilize it. In that regard, we have come up with a number of policies and laws to manage our land here in Uganda. There are many. Land use and management policies are there. The physical planning, like we have a national physical development plan, which has been developed under the Ministry of Lands and completed. It should be published and disseminated for people to know because the plan shows where there will be a big airport in the next 20 years where the roads will pass, hospitals and so forth. There is a plan there. Now, if you recall, there was so the laws are there, the policies are there. Maybe there are weaknesses in implementation and operationalization of these laws, but they are there, and they are meant to protect all of us. Now, the president, you recall, appointed the Bamugemerere Commission some time back to look into this land question, and they did a lot of extensive, deep work, we all recall, and they produced a huge report, which the Ministry of Lands now is synthesizing into a white paper. Maybe they have delayed a bit, but they are expected to produce a white paper which will come to cabinet, and they are very progressive proposals which the commission came up with, like the issue of Mailoland, supposed to reform it, and many other issues regarding these challenges we are discussing. So in the next Sanja, I am hopeful that the ministry will have concluded with the white paper, and then it will be one of the issues which will be addressed to handle these challenges which we are looking at. Let me also comment on the Sabine.
Honorable Minister.
Yes.
The policies, the measures you're talking about, it can't be one shoe fits all. The challenges vary from one community to another. How will those fit each community differently to address the uniqueness they have?
Yes, we have, of course, a policy law is a broad guideline, but these instruments take into consideration the various peculiarities of different societies. Like, for instance, that's why you are saying Kenya has 2 land tenure systems, but like Sheila said, here we have 4 because of the peculiar situation in Uganda. What obtains in northern Uganda is not what obtains here due to history and other factors. So the laws which we make, the policies which we make, and usually consultation is one of the process which takes long to make sure that we accommodate the views and the interests of the different societies. You will find in the Sebei, their issues are different from Chigezi, but all of these have to be in these national policies, national laws. And so the laws are there, the policies are there, and we continue to improve them. Where need be, we come up with new ones, but at the time the challenge is maybe they are not well disseminated for Ugandans to know what the laws say, where their rights start and end, and also maybe in the decentralized framework, you find the local governments are probably not implementing to the letter, but the general framework is there, of course guided by the national constitution. I also wanted to comment on the issue of the land issues in Sebei. You know, I am partially from Sebei region, and
I know.
The Sabini gave me a name, Cheboriot. Cheboriot. But I think there are 2 major issues, like my brothers have explained. The first one is those forest people, the Ndobori, Ndorobo or Bennett, who were dispossessed because of the Mount Elgon forest, then eventually national park. And I think some few years back, government opened the boundaries of Mount Elgon, and we found the park had eaten into people's land, but also the people had eaten into the park land. And that is being resolved. And I think land was found, a place called London, to settle some of those people who are landless. So that process is on. The other issue in the Sebei region is also historical, that Sebei used to be part of Bugisu. It was the old Bukeri district, but it was part of Bugisu. Then in the 30s, around 1934, that's when Sebei County was created. And then before our independence, that's February 1962, Sebei district, the county was upgraded to a district, later renamed Kapchora. Now, when you listen to the Sabine, they will tell you Sebei district, or county and district, was created for the Sabines. But when they put the boundaries, they left the Sabines in the Masaba land, in Bugisu. Now, that has brought a contestation. When initially it was the Silongo district, but now this Bulambuli, I think up to 20–30% of the people there are the Sabines. So it has brought a conflict, but we would want to advise our brothers that maybe you don't dwell on that conflict. What is important is to provide maybe services to the people. Whether you are Sabines living in geographical Bujisu, let's give them services, hospitals, schools, and other amenities. But like they said, now, when there were invasions of the Karamojong, especially Karamojong raiders, in the 80s, but also at every fall of every government, when Obote government fell, Obote won, there were raids. When a Amin government fell, there were raids. When there was a coup 85, and many people, especially the Sabines, now left those lower lands and went up north in the mountains. Some went to Kenya. And I think the people of Bujisu, I think some of them now went and settled. But also I think of recent, the people who have money, including politicians, I think came now and acquired land there, either rightly or wrongly, and that has sparked off conflict. Like Sheila said, yes, the president may have given those directives, but if somebody has acquired a title and then you want to cancel it, and then he goes to court, and the court puts an injunction, then it becomes a lengthy process. And we cannot just direct court and say, please drop this case and so forth. We give it time because the courts are independent. But the government is committed to ensuring that all those disputes are resolved. But their problem is also historical, from the demarcations of the boundaries for the Sebei county, then district. But government is alive to that issue, and I'm sure as we make progress, we shall be able to resolve those issues. So, you are not correct to say that the land questions have no answers. The reason why we exist as government is to provide the answers to the challenges which are affecting society. Otherwise, there would be no leadership, no government, and so forth. So we try to ensure that we address all these issues through progressive policies, through laws, but of course laws are not static. As issues emerge, then we review the laws, we review the policies. If there are specific issues affecting particular communities, like now Bunyoro, when this issue of oil came up, now people all rushed to Bunyoro, and issues of land grabbing and fraudulent acquisition of land emerged, and these are emergent issues which we have to address. So the assurance I want to give is that government is fully aware of these issues, and we address them as they come. And I'm sure in the next government, the land question will remain central to what we shall be doing to address those concerns.
Luke has a comment, but before he gives a comment,
yes,
how do we quicken the process, Honorable Minister? Because as time goes on, I was looking at where Honorable Sheila comes from. There is a gentleman called Kamurasi. People's parents died, the grandparents died. They are now great-grandchildren that are on the land, and they're still solving the same dispute. And you're saying they're emerging problems, but government does not seem to be reading and responding.
I think there are some steps which have been taken to quicken and fast-track some of these processes. For instance, there have been reforms in several departments of government to create specific departments or desks for land. Like I said, police, there is a specific desk for land matters. Even in State House, there is a specific desk for land matters. Even in the court, the courts of law, there is a whole division for handling land matters. That is, I think, one way of ensuring that we isolate this issue, give it priority, and make sure we fast track. Yes, the courts are still not as fast as we would want them to be, but we must all work hard together to make sure that we
look here.
We empower these institutions to make it faster.
Honorable Minister, I think I'm sorry, but with all due respect, you've taken our issue, especially the historical issue in Sebei, a little bit lighter than it is practical on the ground.
My apologies, I'm not born there.
But I want to be just very honest with you. The situation on the ground is not as is now. About last year, this time, I met with the chief warden of Mount Elgon Conservation Area, Mr. Mayanja Samuel, and my question to him is, for how long shall we continue killing each other? That was when the UA staff had killed about 50, so that was the 51st person, a younger boy of around 14 years, who had just gone there to get grass for thatching these things. That was all. He was not armed, but he was shot. Now, in a span of about 15 years, they have killed over 50 Sabenis. Now, when I shared, I also discovered that actually some of the UA staff had also been maimed, and he showed me some photos, and we discovered that it's a bad relationship. Now, as we talk, the demarcation, the demarcation which was there in 1983, there was a redemarcation again in 1993. So as we talk, even Cherop, the High Altitude Training Center, is actually in the reserve, in the conservation area. So I don't know how you are going to consider now. Is it part of the park? Is it part of the land this side? And does it have a title anyway? Now, these are some of the things which people look at and
government is supposed to erect pillars.
I think government is not so much bothered about us because we are dying in numbers. And from 83, there are people who are like the camps you've just mentioned, Rwanda and Kisangani and others. So they have been there for ages, not just a recent thing. So just imagine that long that somebody is born up to the age of 40 years. He has been living in the camp. They don't have any future. Most of them invested with jiggers. They have not been to school. Now, that's the pain that the people there are having. And it's a bigger number of people, not just about 100, 200, 1,000. This is a big number, and in different camps. Now, this historical conflict you are just mentioning about us and the neighbors, the president was very explicit in his directive, and he said this will result into intertribal conflict between the two communities. Now, I want to bring to your attention, Honourable Minister, that in 1964, when there was a forceful attempt, because there was no boundary which has been demarcated so far. There's no boundary demarcation which has been done ever since pre-colonial time. Now, in 1964, when there was attempt to forcefully, with the graders, establish the boundary, create a boundary between the Sebeya and Bugisu then. It was Mbale district, even Sironko wasn't yet established. There was war. It sparked of war. They went and got their weapons, and there was very, very bad war. People fought, and these wars have they last like for about 3 to 6 months. In 1964, there was war. In 1971, when Amin took over, there was war. 79, I was just below 10. But still, there was a very bad blood war. Now, where I come from specifically is just by the border between Bulambuli and Kapchorwa. It was bad. I witnessed it as a young kid. We ran and hid in the caves for about 4 months.
But the war was between who and who?
It was Bugisu and Sebei. And the reason is because of the undefined and demarcated boundary between the two. So these people feel marginalized. They feel, you know, when during the time of after independence, the first leaders in Africa generally accepted to go by the colonial boundaries as established, isn't it? Meaning that even the internal boundaries were there, and these internal boundaries within a country like Uganda were based on, you know, they were tribal. That's why we had those districts like Buganda district, we had Acholi district, we had Cheso district. So we had Bugisu, but also we had Sebei. Now, if you say they cut off some, yes, but we should be now mindful about the social services to the people. But you see, the person you are telling has had a wound for the last over 60, 70 years. So if this issue is not resolved, it will continue being there. So whether within this government or even after this government, because this has happened before and it will continue happening.
So what is the prayer of the...
The prayer would be,
yes,
let the presidential directive of 1st September 2009 be implemented later. If that's what we implemented, it doesn't matter if it is where the imaginary line is now, but let it be clear to all people on both sides, and we shall be all at peace. So is it with the issue of the land, the grabbed land. Honorable Minister, the incentive for land grabbing in that lower belt there is because there is oil in that place.
Okay,
and you know it, most especially in the Moroto Kadam Basin. And now many people have gone, and most of those who grab the land, by the way, are the very big people in government as we talk. They are the MPs, they are the ones who are in our own government in NRM.
But
so that's the pain we have.
But the MPs over the area.
Allow the minister respond. Yeah. Honorable Minister, do you have a response to this?
Yes. No, I didn't want to belittle the issue in Sebei because I also fairly know it. Like you recall, I'm the one who came to disseminate the report on the demarcation of boundaries of Mount Elgon in Kapchora and also in Mbale. And we gave a serious warning to UWA because, like he's saying, there were reports that people just go to fetch firewood and then they are shot by the guards of UWA.
Which is true.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
That the people just go to look for herbs and then they are shot. And we're saying, no. The UWA officials must be humane. And I have to check with the UWA and the Ministry of Lands because the agreement was that after the demarcation, now pillars should be erected with the new boundaries. And then where the park had entered into people's land, then that land is degazetted. And similarly, where people had entered into the park, then that part is gazetted so that we can resolve that dispute. At no time and no point does the government take this issue as very simple because where lives are lost, definitely we get concerned.
You know the delays, Honorable Minister, I'm sorry to interject.
Yes.
The delays is what makes us feel it is being taken lightly.
Okay.
With all due respect, because like if we looked at the presidential directive, 1st September 2009, we are now in 2025, Honorable Minister. Those are about 16 years ago.
I just need to look at the Odwe report. I think some of the recommendations have been implemented.
Yeah, to say no, it has not, because I am aware that even as well as the elders, because we constitute ourselves as like-minded elders within the place. I coordinate their activities, and our major thing is the boundary, and then this issue of the land, the land conflict. Now, with Odwe's report, a white paper was generated, and it was discussed in Parliament, but that was where it ended. I even had a glance at it. That was the end of it. So nothing has happened, and that was 2013 when Honorable Kivejinja generated that white paper. So since then up to now, nothing on the floor of Parliament and no action on the ground. So it is making people become a little bit sentimental, and they may not be very comfortable at the moment, even as we come towards this next election. If this matter is not addressed, it's going to lead to a bit of...
Apart from maybe ensuring that the genuine landowners get back their land because they ran away during those days of conflict and so forth, are you also suggesting that we redemarcate the boundary so that part of Borambuli now goes into Sebei? Would that not be beneficial?
You see, the issue is,
yes,
when the president issued the directive, in 2010,
I'm saying, what do you want?
Yeah, I'm just coming. I just want to tell you that, first of all, there are some errors that were done. Because if the presidential directive was 2009, 2010 immediately, instead of following the directive,
what does it say?
Okay, the directive was very clear that cause a demarcation of the boundary between Sironko district and Kapchora district. That was how it was, number one. But instead, Bulambuli district was created in 2010, and the matter was stayed that way. So now, even now, we should be asking, first of all, ourselves...
The creation of Bulambuli wouldn't be a problem. Now you would say, demarcate now Bulambuli and...
No, but you see, the question is, the presidential directive was very clear.
Yes.
It said Sironko and Kapchorwa. So now, the creation of Bulambuli should also be a problem, because...
Sironko means the current Sironko and Bulambuli.
If the president said, first of all, Sironko and Kapchorwa, and then you create Bulambuli in between, isn't that also trying to ignore the presidential directive? And you know, like when we meet with the Ministry of Land staff, recently when we met, and you know, what they were saying, they were very clear. They were saying, you know, some of the things have to, they have been overtaken with the time.
Okay.
Does the presidential directive have expiry date?
Look, thank you very much. And Honorable Minister, I hope you feel the passion behind this.
No, I do.
Because it also puts forward the emotions that are involved in this land matter, the wounds that are there, the period it has taken for some bit of solution to be there. And I also hear him when he says, you know, it was, there were two districts, but a district was formed in the middle there.
And the president assented to.
So let me come to...
but like I've said, it starts way back 1934. NRM had not yet come when the county was created. So an impression shouldn't be created as if it is us who have created it.
But when NRM is in power now.
Yeah, that's okay.
Is when NRM is in power.
That's okay.
So the question is, why did they keep the presidential directive and then went on to create Bulambuli district? They should have first of all resolved the issue at hand before creating another one. So now the prayers would be,
yes,
let there be now a clear demarcation following the presidential directive, even Bulambuli existing, because the demarcation still can be done.
Thank you, Luke.
Yeah.
And I hope, really, because we know that...
but to answer him, it's actually the independence constitution defined the boundaries of counties and districts then. Now, they are probably part of the problem, like I've said. I think originates even before the independence. When they created the county, that's where the injustice came in. But we've been going by the boundaries as defined in the independence constitution. That's the same issue with the Tororo, where we've been battling with the Tororo. We even had to send a team to London to check what does the record say. But I think it will be resolved.
Hopefully.
So, but my prayer was that...
My only concern is the minister is becoming so political.
No.
When you give me a promise, the promise was already 15 years ago. So yes. For now, anyway, my view would be that, well, it may not be resolved on the TV now.
No, of course.
But something has to be done on this. Whenever minister, by the way, to show you the pain also, we have written as elders to the president, I think almost 10 years, 10 times. But no response. Do you know that we had even to park and go up to the gate of State House?
But
you might have had
my brother, for me, my counsel would be...
No, I'm telling you the pain. I'm telling you the pain.
My counsel would be...
Because I know that, Honorable Minister, you sit in cabinet. That's why I'm not that because I'm against you as a person, but I know you sit in cabinet.
Yes.
Who knows? You may also be tasked to carry this as you meet even in the next cabinet meeting and say, but this issue, I think it's going to, there will be escalation.
We even discussed part of that on Monday, just a few days ago, for your information.
Okay. Look, please allow, let's have the other panelists respond. And I'm grateful for the passion because it is really what is the pain of every Ugandan in every different area.
No, it's a very sensitive issue in the area. I know.
Chairman Chelimo, let me come to you. And I want us to find solutions because if we don't influence policy, no one is going to do that today. All of us here, from the different regions we come from, especially hearing Luke and the wound and what he has spoken about, what is there. What do you see as the solution to solve the land question of this country? Because the Land Act is there, a policy is there, a land fund is there. We don't know about government's willingness, but we have courts, we have the police, we have State House land unit. Where are we failing and what can we do?
Timothy, this conversation definitely is very important. And it adds to the other conversations even which are not here.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I am happy that citizens out there are putting in their opinions, their suggestions, and sometimes also, correcting some of the impressions we may be creating here. First of all, my view is that some of the problems have been caused, first of all, by the number of tenure systems that we have. I think as a policy, and I'm aware, I think the second national land policy is somewhere in advanced stages. I think it is in draft.
It's being drafted.
I think it is there. But before it comes out fully, some of the ideas that people, members of the citizens of this country, the ideas they are voicing now, I think can still be put in this, to finalize that second national land policy. And really one of them which I think government needs to close its eyes and boldly reduce the number of, especially the cumbersome tenure elements. If it is, I'm sure it is possible to look for some money and we put in order the Milo holders who are finding it very difficult to access even their land because of the other smaller laws which protect tenants and that type of thing. I think the new land policy can really emphasize buying off so that because the tenants are very many, the majority, the tenants are the majority, the Milo land holders are fewer. I think government can close its eyes, put money there. It's an investment really in the long run. And I want to assume that even where mistakes have been made in other places, like the case of, like our case actually in Bulambuli, where there are so many mistakes that have been made in the management. Sometimes non-citizen investors even have titles. Something can be, maybe the same fund can be used to buy them off so that the land comes back to the real owners who historically belong to that area. I mean,
but if they have fraudulently acquired land, then the titles should be cancelled.
Yeah, but if it is becoming very, now these are the people who now, some of them go to court, and because the government says the courts are independent. I mean, these fraudulent people are getting the benefit when really the person who is suffering is the owner of the land. And so instead, the law protects the fraudulent and oppresses the owner of the land. So really, I think in the new land policy, I think these are some of the matters that need to be emphasized.
Chairman, my last question to you before I come to Madam Cherop. There is something that Luke said, and I've also had Professor Ogenga Latigo here, especially when we're discussing the Balalo question. There is that wound that is there. It is not a policy that can solve it. It is not a land act, not an article. What needs to be done to resolve issues of the heart that need to be resolved? Because when you look at how Luke was speaking, you know this is really pain that is coming from somewhere.
Timothy, now that you are talking about the herdsmen in the north, you know, to do pastoral work, you must be on the land. And the way they use the land is unique, because these people keep moving from one place to another, and sometimes they do a lot of harm to people who have their crops, or even their animals. Now, actually, the Balaro issue, although a lot of noise has not been made, very soon the next people making noise against the Balalo herdsmen are actually the people of Kapchorwa and Kwen. Because as we speak, we have begun to noticing that some of the animals which perhaps left the north, like last month, some of them have arrived in Kwen district, in the constituency of Chemaswet, Soy, in the plains. And very soon, now that area now is really a farming area. There's almost no grazing land. But these people have come inside, they bring their cows at night. You just see them in the morning grazing. But when you investigate quietly, you discover that they were actually people who were chased from Kitgum or Padero and that. So that one now also makes the land crisis a bigger problem, even for us who are having fewer Balalo.
Okay, thank you. Madam Agnes, coming to you. This seems like a multifaceted problem with different regions, with different interests, with different challenges. Is legislation enough? What can solve this land question, especially with the diversity that we have in this country?
I don't think that the multiple laws, institutions, and desks here and there are going to deal with this painful issue. Like we said at the beginning, nobody is willing to confront it, because those that would have confronted it are actually guarding it jealously in their own interests, because they are the current landlords. They are benefiting from this, and that's the problem. We are actually calling on monkeys in a meeting to decide the fate of the forest. They are interested. They are the biggest landlords, and yet, yes, they are the biggest landlords.
Yes.
So every time I listen to a conversation that people want to reform Mile, I just smile and pick my cup of coffee, because I'm like, who is going to reform Mile here? Who is not owning Mile? And who is going to let what I have be taken away from me? So the problem is we shouldn't create more institutions, because then we are encouraging forum shopping. And you would realize that even some institutions that may not deliver on a legal decision that is going to last actually seem to be more powerful because of the people that are holding these institutions. I would, even when at one moment in time I'm a landlord, and at another time I'm a chibanja, a chibanja holder, I think we have to take a painful decision and allow people to live and allow people to use. Because actually when you listen to the stories of the people that are being evicted, if you listen to the detail of those cries, it's about them living and surviving and using the land. But unfortunately, our laws overemphasize ownership as opposed to use. And unfortunately, we are not here forever. We are here to live for a particular span of time and go. And people want to live today and be able to predict tomorrow and get food, have a roof over their head, and perhaps bury their dead. So there are so many things that eventually will be reformed as land becomes smaller and as many people are holding on land and nothing else is left for them to derive a livelihood. So for me, I subscribe to the thinking that in the next national land policy, the second national land policy, can we have models that allow land use and allow, create that sense that let us use this land, and perhaps also we go and find land in China, like the Chinese are finding land here. Can we have those models that enrich us, okay? And we think about doing other things as opposed to hanging on land. It is unfortunate that even those people that would have thought that, they have accumulated knowledge, they can't derive a livelihood elsewhere, are the ones that are running at the countryside to buy hectares of land and leave them unused. And then we come back and say we are hungry. We come back and say, like Sheila was saying, everybody's looking at Uganda to feed the East African region. We can't feed the East African region when people are investing in burying money in land and put barbed wires and say this land is not for sale, and then come back to Kampala and speculate. So please, dear Ugandans, we are not here forever. Don't overaccumulate. And I think we also need to determine how much land, Honorable Minister, should somebody own in this country. I think it is high time we also got into regulating the land market And to regulate the land market is to allow other ventures work. So in this country, we cannot solve the land question when the economics in other areas are not working. So people are running back, the educated are running back. Your university, well-educated child is running back and is asking you for land. He would be doing other things. We would have had our urban centers well-developed to accommodate many of us, as opposed to all of us planting our small things. Everyone is constructing buzigo, you know, funny things everywhere, instead of how we would have organized our lands and used them more profitably and equitably, and then we all make a kill. I sometimes sympathize with the landlords. You have a whole chunk of land, and all what you have is a piece of paper. A piece of paper, and if Honorable needs to do a national project on it, we'll give you 40% because of keeping the piece of paper and giving them the legality. So they are not earning from that piece of paper. So why are we holding on those pieces of paper when eventually the people that are benefiting from these lands are the people that are using the lands? I agree. We came from the soil as a Christian. They say we came from dust. I think maybe that is why we are holding so much on what?
The dust.
On the dust. But I think we need to be given...
Don't hold on too much dust. Just enough.
Yes, and this can only come from the guidance.
You know, so the first person, because the Bible was Adam. And it comes from the word Adama. In Hebrew, it means soil.
He came from soil. And so we are all holding on that what? On that, but I don't think how much can we hold on. You know, why are people owning hectares of land?
Okay.
Square miles.
Thank you.
Square miles.
I like that you talk about especially use and regulation, and also asking questions on what the person should be entitled to. Let me come to Luke. Luke, you are part of an elders forum.
Yes.
And we have many of these across the country in the different regions. What have you done to connect with them so that you have a bigger voice, especially on answering this land question?
Thank you, Timothy. I think it is the process, and we began as a loose association of elders, and we are now at the stage of formalizing to see that we don't just only focus on land and boundary issues, but also look at socio-economic transformation in our area, and then wealth creation, and trying to add value to what or amplify on what government is putting in the society, like the projects like Myoga and the PDM, and then maybe we can add value to that. But yes, after we finish our formalization, we are going to look out for those who are like us, so that we come up with the one front, because we believe that it's not only one sub-region that is having the pain related to land and even issues of boundaries. In Uganda there is, in Bunyoro and even Bulisa, and we know what attracts this evil of land grabbing is because of what is beneath the ground. And sometimes, I don't know whether it's deliberate. I mean, it's my government. We know that in Sebei is 100% NRM, for your information, because from LOC 1 to LOC 5 to members of parliament, all of them. So I can comfortably say,
and you're crying.
Yeah, but we are crying, and yet we are supposed to be in the bedroom or in the kitchen for that matter. But we are crying. Why? It's like the government is looking aside, and maybe they want us to cry louder. And for sure, I can assure you we are going to cry louder. We are going to cry louder, and very soon it will be much more louder, because we need to be heard if this is going to happen. But we shall also team up with those in the same situation like us, and then we move together. But having said that,
the other question that I would like to put to you, you are talking as leaders of the Sebei region. You're talking as the Elders Forum. He's speaking as the chairman there. What is the part of the population within this sub-region or within the country to play to resolve this matter? Us as the population.
Yeah, as the demand creation.
Order.
Yes, we have to carry order, but we shall do demand creation. We're going to go out. We will get our placards. We will also protest. But you see some of these candidates, because we know that in the near future, the president will come, seeking for the vote. But this time around, the situation may be a little bit different. It may not be business as usual. I can tell you this for a fact. When in 2009 December, the elders, including Mzee Chelimo there, all of them descended to their land because the president had issued a directive that the titles are going to be cancelled. So they were happy and they began constructing. Then all of a sudden the minister went there, that was Minister of Internal Affairs, and then the soldiers chased them away. That was December. Now, last year, as we talk, even this year, some youth, on realizing that, you know, these elders are not doing anything about our land, and this land we have read, the president directed, this is our land. So they also descended and went down. The RDCs descended on them, with the police arrested them. Many of them were put in court and were put in prison. So they are appearing to court even up to now. We had to go and visit them, try to help them to be bailed out. Now, do you think those youth are going to sit down and keep quiet and say, yes, we are going to clap hands? No. This time round, their eyes are quite open. Don't be surprised that actually the place may change the color from yellow to another color altogether. Because I'm not just saying it for the sake of saying so, because I interact with the youth and they are beginning to speak a different language altogether. So what is the solution here?
Yes.
We are looking at, one, let the historical injustices be corrected. If districts were based on the tribes, like for example, there was Uganda district, at around that time of independence, there was Acholi district, there was a Testo district, there was Lango district. And then what is good for the goose should also be good for the gander. As simple as that. So let's go back and reconstruct the situation. Where did the Sabines live? Well, there is a lot of information. Major General MacDonald was sent by the Queen of England in 1894. He came and stood at Sironko, and he said, north of Sironko, River Sironko, live the people called the Sabines. That is information is there. Even the name Sironko is not a Gishu name. All these rivers and all those places, they were just changed recently. We will hear people of Bulambuli, even Bunambutie. This Bunambutie name is not, it just came in after 1950. But the place is called Cheptui. If you go there, you will find Cheptui police station. Even names of those places, even the barracks which is there, the military barracks, it's called Kata barracks, but actually the real name is Kata Jengman. It's a Sabine name. Names like Korosi, all those places, Kamungei, all those names were given by our ancestors. We buried there, our grandfathers. They are there. Their bodies are there. Then you come all of a sudden, you begin putting names on top and say, now this time another place is called Bumufuni, another one is called the Sumani Bunambutie. Those are different things. These are chiefs who went there and then carried people from the south, took them there. If you go to South Bugisu, you will find there a place called Bunambutie, and there's the clan called Bunambutie. It's just very clear. Okay. It's common sense. But now, before I finish up, one thing we need to do is to fight corruption. Because in this land grabbing, if that only is a moral issue. It's not an issue of the law that maybe you are lacking the law. It's a moral issue. So we have to fight corruption so that there is, let there be humane. Let there be life. Just let other people be treated like other human beings, not just a matter of getting money, grabbing, and then going there. So corruption has to be fought, but also after correcting the historical injustices, I think in this matter as a solution which is immediate, let the president treat it like the way he did against the Balalo in Acholi sub-region. Okay. He got involved himself, issued a direct presidential
directives,
executive orders. And those executive orders, until the president got involved himself, there wouldn't be anything being done up now. So now that it happened there, it can also happen here if the president dissents. Otherwise, the situation is turning a different color.
Okay.
And
So we had
the Balalo are coming to
we have had
Kaprokuto
three
now.
executive
Yes, and
orders.
we have, yes, because now, you got the Balalo, by the way, have begun invading. And by the way, let me tell you, Timothy, I am one who believes that it is not true, because this has also gone out there, that whereas Uganda was a British colony, the Sabinis were also a colony of another tribe. That's not true.
Okay, let's leave that there.
They
Honorable
were
Sheila,
not, yeah.
when you look at this dynamic from Sebei to Teso, come down to Uganda, go to Mitiana, go to Mubende, Bunyoro,
Everywhere.
it has different faces, but the same issue, land is the question. What more can government do? And is it enough for government to be able to do all this?
You know, when sometimes we are talking about a government, and I feel I'm a government myself, because being a Ugandan, I have a role to play. And I think sometimes we get so emotional when we are talking about land, and especially when we, Luke is talking about the Sabine, I would talk about the Batoro, I know there are the Bachiga, You know, all these have been historical moments. I know that the Bachiga at one time couldn't fit in Chigezi.
And the Batoro received us.
They had to go to Toro. Later they were in Bunyoro, and they have acquired land, and they moved on with their lives. I know it was a big battle, but eventually it has been sorted because there have been intermarriages and people have moved on. Yeah? For me, I'm in Toro, but I didn't grow up in Toro. I grew up in Uganda, so I have acquired land in Uganda.
And we are still saying the Baganda now, we need our
but
land.
you know, it will be very difficult to reverse some of these historical things. You know, we keep on talking about reversing history. History cannot be reversed. We keep on moving forward. And I see that even in the future, the Sabine will not be, with all due respect, it's highly emotional, but the Sabine will not be locked up in Sebei.
So how do we stop kicking this forward and deal with it?
I think we need to get more open-minded. For me, I don't, because I keep on looking at the British coming all the way from wherever they came from, and they acquired the Kenyan highlands, for example, and they're still there. They went to South Africa, they created apartheid wherever they came from. So I think also as Africans, we need to start getting more open-minded and move. If there is land in Congo, for me, I feel I should go there, and I should be accepted anywhere within Africa to acquire land. And we stop, because the more we limit ourselves, the more we have this cycle of poverty, land fragmentation. When we started this debate, people are saying, talking about small plots, 10 families in 1 acre. And somewhere there is somebody who has land, and if I moved in there, can I get more land? So that we are more open-minded. I don't see how government, because the government says land belongs to the people of Uganda. It doesn't limit me. To me, that was a very revolutionary statement in the Constitution. It meant I can go to Koboko and acquire land. I can go to Kinkizi and acquire land there, without limiting myself in, this is where I am. For me, I'm more liberal. I keep saying, when I'm dead, wherever they want to bury me, they can bury. After all, I'll be gone. So I know we need that. This is our homeland, but I think sometimes things will change, and we find ourselves getting more open-minded to move.
Well, I don't know, Timothy. I think, I don't know whether I'm getting this right, but we are not saying, for instance, the Sabines don't want to live in, I mean, I live in Kampala, and that's why I studied here, I went to Makerere.
And are you open to owning land in Kampala?
Very much so.
Yes.
Yes, and the question is, the injustice there is somebody coming and grabbing our ancestral land, and then we just leave it like that and say, okay, we have to have an open mind, so maybe to tell them, God bless you, or what? That's not the thing. The issue is, when you come and grab the land, you should be dealt with according to the law. And that's what my thinking is. Let the matter be resolved. By the time the president pens and issues a directive, then he must have listened and also done the research.
The president, is he law?
He's
because
not law,
just
but
as I
see,
said, if I had land.
By the time he issues a directive, my view is the president has researchers, he has people around him who are knowledgeable, even the Minister of Land, he does consultation. And by the time he pens down to say, please cause a demarcation, then he has realized that there's a problem. Because he knows. But you see, you cannot say, we are not saying we are going to reverse the history. You can't reverse history, but we have to correct the injustices. If there are injustices, let them be corrected. So it's like now when you come to your area, and then you remember the lost county, I don't know whether that's your place. Now, if that had been left without being resolved in 1964, 63, so if it was not solved, probably it would have led to tribal war, because it was very clear how it was annexed to Uganda. Now later on it had to go back by the intervention of government, and the matter was resolved. So my question would be, yes, that's true. Of course they did that. But now the question is, if somebody has come and grabbed the land, must he not be followed? Should we just say let's remain liberal and leave it being like that? If the demarcation was supposed to be done in 1962 or before then, should we just leave it like that? Don't you feel the pinch as an individual? You see, we vary. By the way, maybe we vary in callings, we vary in the way we perceive things. It is not because of being liberal, but it's just sometimes being attached for identity. That's all. There is nothing like we are going to chase away. By the way, we have many people. We have Banyankole, we have Bagisu living in Sebei. They have land, they have owned the land, they rear even animals. It's okay. We have many episodes, and really we are very comfortable with them. But we are just saying that for administrative purpose, let this be corrected because it has never been done.
Okay.
So shall we just live without a demarcation of the district? Okay. For instance, if you were a bishop there of the Anglican Church, will they will tell you, ask you, where do you end this side? What will you say?
Okay.
You just say, okay, for us we are liberal, go wherever you
want. The God of the Sadiki, the same as the God of the Wamasava.
There's no problem. But you see, the issue is,
gentlemen, come back here. Let me read some feedback. Someone who has persisted to ask a question. Timothy, thank you for the show. My question is to condominium property. What is the status of non-Ugandan nationals who buy condominium units under private Milo and freehold parcels? Can they transfer these titles under such parcels, or they are as well subjected to Article 237, Section 3 of the Land Act? Okay, thank you for that question. Someone sends a message from Butabika. This is Chemong, and he says, I'm watching from Butabika. He says, good evening, Timothy. The Honourables in the studio. To my chairman and Luke, how do you intend to follow up the directives to the dot for the demarcation of Bulambuli? Thank you again for fighting for the people and speaking the truth there, okay? Lastly but not least, thank you for the show. I'm impressed by the representation and the fighting spirit that is in the studio. The legislative arm needs to be watching because the hearts of the people are bleeding, okay? Thank you. Finally, to our Honorable Minister, this land eviction that is in Toro district at Peta SC, where government took over 31 acres of land to do quarries, saying that Uganda Railway was gazetting this land in 1928, yet the people have lived there all that time. During this eviction, the following happened. Crops were destroyed, the dust came up, and the result of mining affected the human people's health there. People's housing was destroyed. All those were not compensated. This is Honorable JB, District Councillor for Peta SC there. Okay. Gentlemen and ladies, I'm going to give you 2 minutes as parting shots. I'll start with Honorable Sheila. I'll get to Luke, Agnes, Chairman, and finally our Honorable Minister. Your parting shots on this topic.
My parting shots, I think, would be that with all due respect to how we view land, we need to be more open-minded. Because inevitably, land is a factor of production, and it has to produce. And with time, we are going to have challenges. The more the population grows, the more challenges we will have on the number of people that land can accommodate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look.
Well, I want to thank you, Timothy. In relation to the land question in Uganda, it's a crisis which is in an increasing manner. And I realize that even the courts at the moment, with the high backlog and then the introduction of ADR and other courts, I would want to think that still it cannot be a solution, because the workloads will outpace the backlog, together with the creation of other courts and the ADR provision.
Okay.
So I would think that for us as a country, this issue of land is a moral issue. So we should deal with the morality as much more than we can look at the legal aspect.
Thank you very much. Madam Agnes.
Thank you, Timothy, and colleagues on the panel this evening. Dear listeners and those of you that are watching us, I told you that land is the most lucrative commodity. So every time you look at it as such. And like any other lucrative commodity, somebody is looking out for it. And if you have access to it, please use it to the optimum to grow your territories and enlarge your entitlements, or else it is going to be taken away from you, because we have witnessed many people that have big chunks of land, but they are actually very, very poor. So look at land as a factor of production, and you should indeed put it under production. And to government, and the issue was to the coming government 2026, be bold, be intentional, confront the issue of land in Uganda. Let us not be the history to be referred to by our great-grandchildren, just like we are pointing to the history, and we leave the problem here. Confront it, and we are going to be looking out to see who is more bold and ready to confront this problem.
Thank you very much. Chairman.
Thank you, Timothy. And thank you all the viewers. I will still revisit the important instrument of the new land policy. As we plan for the use of land, we should not only look at use of land for farming. I think we should plan wholesale for industry, for urban utilization, for housing, so that we don't create what is actually emerging, where we need to zone the country, so that there are certain areas that are kept green for farming, and there are also specific areas which we can develop for urban, so that we have an orderly system, and where we have opportunities really, where there is overpopulation, like for us in Mount Elgon, many people can go and work in industrial establishments. And then these models, like these models of 4-acre model, I think the 4-acre model needs to be used systematically. There are some areas where there are no 4 acres. So you have to have a model which applies to those areas. Okay. If some areas are 10 acres, you can actually advise them to use a 10-acre model. So that's my advice.
Thank you.
Especially to government anyway.
Honorable Minister, just 2 messages. One says, and this was interesting, it's very clear that Milo brought issues, especially by our colonial masters. Can the British government, using international law, be compelled to pay off the landlords so that we can be able to get into freehold? That was one. But also,
they are no longer
the other one that someone sent that really needed you to respond to He says that he owns a house and he has a tenant in it. He evicted the tenant in gave them 1 month's notice, but the RDC has gotten involved and refused them to remove the tenant. In your parting shots, if you could respond to that too.
That one, the RDC is not a law. There is a law that regulates the tenant-landlord relationship.
Yes.
Actually, I supervised the drafting of it. So they should use the law, not the RDC. So that's the advice I would give the RDC, not to take the law into his hand.
Well, I'm shopping.
And the law is very clear on how you can evict a tenant on different grounds. Now, there were few questions just quickly. The Peta land Tororo, I would need to get the facts because we have to look at the land rights of the people who are being evicted. If they own the land or they have some form of rights, they should be compensated because Article 26 of the Constitution provides for compulsory acquisition by the state, but the owner of the land has to be compensated adequately, fairly, and promptly before acquisition. And the owner has a right to go to court and seek redress. So I will, if he could send his number, I could call him and get facts and then link with the Ministry of Lands to make sure those people are not unfairly treated. My other comment is that we are working on national integration. I think as we make progress, we should be able to coexist and live anywhere. The Sabine can coexist with the Bamasaba and vice versa. Probably what is pertinent, what Luke is raising, if somebody has fraudulently and irregularly and unlawfully acquired land, then justice must be given to those people who have lost their land.
True.
Like we said earlier on, sometimes there are court processes which are bureaucratic, but definitely those who genuinely own the land must get justice. Somebody, I should not just come because I'm a minister and I just grab land. The law should deal with me. And the assurance I can give him, it may have taken long, but eventually the issues surrounding that land in the Lower Sebei will be addressed. The condominium, there's a question on the condominium. We have a law on condominium apartments or housing. The titles are given in the context of the tenure system that we have. Foreigners can only get leases, not freehold and so forth, and therefore the lease can be transferred. Because we were saying if a foreigner who has acquired the condominium, can he transfer it? The answer is yes, you can. So lastly, I think land is increasingly becoming a very useful resource, like it has been, very emotive. Land is becoming scarce, and therefore this debate on the land question will remain central today and even in the future as the population increases. What we need to do is to listen to all these concerns as they come from Bujisu, from Sebei, from everywhere, and then we continue reforming our policies, reforming our laws, like she's raising. Should somebody own 10 square miles of idle land? Should we prescribe how much one can own? Should we tax your land if it is idle when people are landless and you are holding large chunks of land and utilize? Should we impose a tax? All these are questions which we should interrogate and see as we amend our policies, as we amend our laws. How do we integrate them so that we can use the land that God gave us much more sustainably and profitably for all of us as citizens of this country.
Thank you very
much.
much.
The assurance I want to give is that the government is not asleep. We are awake to all these issues, and we listen to the voices of Ugandans, like what's coming from Sebei, and all these should be able to inform the work that we do. As we draft policies, as we make laws, we must accommodate all these concerns which are emerging in the national debate.
Thank you. The gentleman is called Honorable JB. I have got his number. I will share it with you.
Yes, and I will call him immediately after this show. He gives me details and we act on that matter.
No problem. I've got his number and he's from PETA SC, and we'll be able to give the minister the number so that he can get in touch with you to get details there. I want to thank the technical team for making today possible. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for making time to be here. We appreciate everyone that sent in a message to make sure that you're part of this conversation. For those that we didn't read, we apologize because of time, but we'll end with this quote. It's a South African quote. A grave is not dug until the person is dead. Good morning.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
In a nation hungry for truth,
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Hello, Kampala, Uganda. In response to the national call of strengthening the traffic security, Good Products Group HGO brand has officially launched the Rider Selection Campaign. Registration is now open. Visit www.riders.hgo.com. Complete your registration now for a chance to win exciting prizes including motorcycles, exclusive HGO gift boxes, and official rider vests, all while promoting safe riding awareness. This is how to participate. Pay the registration fee, invite 3 friends to form a team of 4, and your registration fee will instantly be refunded. Begin your journey of honor today. Don't miss this opportunity. Join the challenge, promote road safety, and become a pioneer rider. For details, visit the official Good Products website at www.hgo.com or call toll free 0800-335-555 or visit our offices at Kingdom Kampala 3rd floor to register now and win prizes worth millions.
Big thing about the MTN Super. Wali yakapia musite wali yakapia. Wali yakapia. MTN kabo the Super mustairo mpia. Then you kabo the smartphone nebi yakabibiona. Wali yakapia. MTN kabo the Super mustairo mpia. Then you kabo the smartphone nebi yakabibiona.
Get the new Kabode Super smartphone and enjoy 16 GB free. Start with a deposit of only 45,000 Uganda shillings and pay the rest mpora in daily installments of less than 1K. You can also make weekly and monthly installments. Together, our vibes are unstoppable. Terms and conditions apply.
MTN.
MTN is regulated by Uganda Communications Commission.
The Presidential CEO Forum will host the 6th Biennial Private Sector CEO Retreat, Marketing Uganda. The retreat will take place from the 9th to the 11th of September 2025 at Mountains of the Moon Hotel in Fort Portal City, Kabarole District. It will be held under the theme, Transforming Uganda into a Preferred Tourism Destination, Enhancing Public-Private Investment in Infrastructure, Conservation, Digitalization, Product Diversification, Marketing and Tourist Safety. The chief guest will be His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda.
Honorable Fred Biamukama, Minister of State for Works and Transport in charge of transport, invites you to the second phase of the 4-acre model campaign in Greater Bunyoro sub-region. The event will take place at Nalweyo Primary School Playground, Behimba Road, on Saturday, 20th September 2025 at 10 a.m. and will be graced by His Excellency President Yoweri Museveni. All residents, civil servants, and leaders from the districts that make up Greater Hoima, Greater Masindi, Greater Chibale, and neighboring areas are encouraged to attend in large numbers. This initiative, led by the President, aims to bring ordinary people into the money economy by showcasing farmers who have succeeded in the 1-acre model, 2-acre model, 3-acre model, and 4-acre model. Join local leaders and residents in learning how small land can be used to enhance food security and socio-economic growth. Don't miss this opportunity to witness the transformative impact on local communities.
At UNOC, we believe in safety.
Chigenda kutokotanga sichesanikire. Don't miss Border Border Union Festival and Expo as we celebrate Border Border's contribution to Uganda's economy and the President's birthday. His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, who will be our chief guest. Come enjoy your favorite artists, music and dance competitions, DJ competitions, Border Border races, Ludo, boxing tournaments, and so much more. At the Colonial Ceremonial Grounds, get your ticket from your MP, Councillor, LC5 or LC3 chairperson. Fedna Tumeyo. Union, the better way. Hello, Kampala, Uganda. In response to the national call of strengthening the traffic security, Good Products Group HGO brand has officially launched the Rider Selection Campaign. Registration is now open. Visit www.riders.hgo.com. Complete your registration now for a chance to win exciting prizes including motorcycles, exclusive HGO gift boxes, and official rider vests, all while promoting safe riding awareness. This is how to participate. Pay the registration fee, invite 3 friends to form a team of 4, and your registration fee will instantly be refunded. Begin your journey of honor today. Don't miss this opportunity. Join the challenge, promote road safety, and become a pioneer rider. For details, visit the official Good Products website at www.hgo.com or call toll-free 0800-335-555 or visit our offices at Kingdom Kampala 3rd floor to register now and win prizes worth millions.
UBC, inspiring Uganda. UBC.
University that lets people walk in with guns. So, you know, while it's not a state where maybe guns are restricted in everyday life, maybe on a public street one could carry around their firearm, but not on a college campus. So this person was not legally carrying their gun unless they were a licensed security guard.
Yeah, like you were saying, Caleb, the US has seen a series